I've hired a lot of people in my career, and when I look back at every single person I said yes to, it's always come down to the same five things: not their certifications, not their degree, not how many programming languages they knew, five traits. And here's the part that should get your attention. You can build every single one of them starting today. No experience required. Get these five, and you stop being another applicant, and you become a person a hiring manager fights to keep. Real quick, in case we haven't met, I'm Joshua Beeler. I spent 17 years at Apple working my way up from Tier 1 support into leadership. And today, I'm a manager of IT operations at Coinbase. This channel is where I will show you how to break into tech and build a six-figure IT income. No degree, no gatekeeping, just the truth from someone who's actually done the hiring. So, if that's the career you want, hit subscribe and stick around. Now, in my last video, I told you the big secret. Getting hired isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the person people trust, which raises the obvious question. What actually builds that trust? What am I actually looking for when I'm hiring? These five traits are the answer. Let's get into them. Let's start with number one, and it might actually be the most important: ownership. Ownership does not mean having all the answers. It means taking responsibility. Here's the difference I've watched play out 100 times. Something breaks. One person's looking around for who to blame and says, that's not my job, and walks away. The second person steps towards the problem and says, how can I help? And figures out a solution. I keep and develop the second person every single time, because when I hand you something and you own it, I stop having to worry about it. That is worth more to most than any certification on earth. So, how do you show this in an interview when you don't have any IT experience yet? You tell a story where you own something nobody told you to. Nobody asked me to, but I noticed there was a process broken, so I fixed it. That sentence tells a hiring manager everything. It says, I don't wait to be told. I take responsibility. Ownership builds trust faster than anything else on this list. All right, next up is number two, curiosity. My favorite thing to hear in an interview is, that's actually interesting. I've not run into that before, but here's how I'd figure that out. That one sentence tells me you're resourceful, that I can hand you something brand new and you won't freeze. You'll actually go and learn it. And that matters more in tech than almost anything else because our entire industry changes rapidly. The specific tool you're working with today will be entirely different in 3 years. Curiosity is what keeps your career alive. There's a mindset I love from one of Microsoft's chairmen, Satya Nadella. He says, don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all. That's the trait. So how do you show it? Well, you talk about something you taught yourself. As an example, I got curious about how networks worked. So I built a little home lab and I figured it out. I would take a curious beginner over an expert who stopped learning every single time. All right, number three, and this one's massively underrated. It's communication. I've watched brilliant engineers, genuinely brilliant people struggle in their careers because they could not explain what they were thinking. And I've watched average technicians become exceptional leaders because people understood them and trusted them. Here's why it matters so much in IT specifically. Your job is the bridge between something broken and a stressed out human being. If you can take something complicated and explain it simply and calmly to a panicking person, you're worth your weight in gold. And communication isn't just about talking, it's listening. It's asking the better question. It's making the person in front of you feel understood. So, how do you show that in an interview? Well, be the proof. Explain something technical to me like I'm not technical. Stay calm, stay clear. If you can do that in a room with me, I already know you could do that with a frustrated employee. All right, number four, and you're going to hear me talk about this one a lot in future videos: adaptability. Every few years, our whole industry shifts from under our feet. First it was cloud, then it's automation, and now it's AI rewriting how IT operation even works. New tools, new expectations, constantly. So here's the truth. The people who thrive are not the ones who know the most today. They're the ones who keep learning for tomorrow. I've watched people attach their whole identity to one tool or one way of doing things, and then the industry moves, and then they get left behind. Don't be that person. Attach your identity to being someone who adapts, who learns, who leans into the changes that are being made and not resisting them. So, how do you show that in an interview? Tell me about a time something changed and you adjusted. A new system at work, a new responsibility, anything that tells me that you're still valuable in 10 years and not just this one. All right, number 5, integrity. Here's something nobody tells you when you're trying to break into IT. The moment a company hires you, they're handing you the keys to everything: admin access, passwords, people's private data, the power to wipe a drive, read an inbox, or take down a system with a wrong click. Sit with that for a second. A company who barely knows you and they're about to trust you with it all. So, underneath every question I ask in an interview, I'm really asking just one: can I trust this person with the keys? And integrity is how I get my answer. It's not about being perfect, it's the opposite. It's the person who says, I don't know, instead of bluffing. It's doing what you said you'd do when literally no one is checking. Because in IT, a bluff is never small. Someone pretends they know which drive to wipe and wipes the wrong one. Yikes. Now the company's lost data, lost money, and lost trust. All because one person can say the 3 words, I'm not sure. So here's how you'll show it in an interview. It's not going to feel great. In fact, it's going to feel a little backwards. In your next interview, tell me about a time you messed up. Own it completely. No excuses. No blaming the last guy. Just, here's what I got wrong, here's what it cost, and here's exactly what I changed so it never happened again. I will trust that person in a heartbeat, way more than a candidate who's somehow never made a mistake, because that person is either not being honest or they've never actually been handed anything real. Integrity is what turns a technician into a person a company will trust with the keys. And that is the whole game. So there they are, the 5 things I actually look for: ownership, curiosity, communication, adaptability, integrity. Notice what's not on that list? Not a specific certification, not a degree, not 10 years of experience, 5 traits, and every one of them is a choice, not a credential. If you spent the next year getting intentionally better at these 5 instead of chasing one more cert, I honestly believe your career would look completely different. Not overnight, but over time, because careers aren't changed by one big moment. They're changed by hundreds of small ones. The reliable Tuesdays when nobody's watching. So, this week, pick one of these 5 and get better at it. Just one. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because in my next video, I'm going to tell you about the best hire I ever made, a guy with 0 IT experience, and what he did that made me say yes. All right, I'll see you in the next one.